Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Fresno Between Friends and Family service. And for today, we are going to combine our Sunday service with a couple of other activities. One is the celebration of our Ohigan service. Those of you that are familiar with what the celebrations of our church, you know that we do Ohigan twice a year. And it's generally during the spring and the autumn equinox, when the light and the darkness of the day seem to be equal. And it also gives us a chance to reflect upon the balances that are required in our life. We also are having this service for what we call Shotsuki Hoyo, where individuals that would like to recognize family members that have passed in the month of September. We at the Betsuin this year, we decided that we're going to not only have a Ohigan service, but we decided we were going to have Ohigan weekend. And so we, through the generosity of the Yamaguchi family, we invited our guest speaker, Reverend Jerry Hirano, to present a seminar for us yesterday here at the Dharma Center. And I have to admit, I was captivated by what he had to say. He kind of reflected, he recollected his first experiences here at the Fresno Betsuin as a young up-and-coming YBA member. He also shared the adventures that he had in terms of conducting a service in all 48 states within the continental United States. He had talked about how to survive as a Buddhist church in the state of Utah, and basically a very deep Mormon culture. And they also gave us previews in regards to what we can look forward to in the future in terms of the temple culture. And so if he doesn't happen to talk about any of these things during the service today, perhaps when you have the opportunity to join us for lunch, that you could ask him about some of these adventures that he had experienced and shared with us yesterday. To begin the service today, we will be chanting sutra, and then there's one little typographical error that's here, and it says that the Shotsuki families can do a shoko or offer incense after Juni Rai. It actually should be Shoya Raizan Ya. Okay. So I will now turn the service over to Reverend Haas.
We are gathered here today to observe the 2024 the Fresno Betsing for Ohigan in Shotsuki, the September monthly memorial service. The word Ohigan is a translation of the Indian ancient word Paramita or Paramita. It means wisdom and other shore. So Ohigan is translated as the other shore of enlightenment. According to our main text, the Raja Sutra, Skavadi Vyuha, the Dharmakara Bodhisattva completed all required practices to achieve the enlightenment for all of us by spending 5 kalpas. So in our Jodo Shinshu tradition, we are only encouraged to recite Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Wisdom and vows of Amida Tathagata are deep and boundless like ocean. When you hear the teachings of Namo Amida Butsu and wish to reach the state of equanimity of enlightenment, all these sentient beings certainly and equally reach the state of equanimity of enlightenment. The teaching of Namo Amida Butsu was brought to you by the historical Buddha Shakyamuni, and it was propagated at Jodo Shinshu by Shinran Shonin. Shinran Shonin's Jodo Shinshu has been maintained and practiced by your loved ones, so you are able to continue hearing the teachings of Namo Amida Butsu and deepening your appreciation for your presence and your everyday life, which was given by your loved ones. It is very important for each of us to remember our loved ones and express our gratitude to his, her effort, compassion, and dedication to flourish our everyday lives on this occasion. May the fragrance of the incense teach us the purity of intentions. May the beauty of the flowers remind us of the delicate nature of life, and may the lights that burn brightly by the altar be those souls to Amida's light of compassion, reminding us that we are a part of oneness. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo もし心機妙来天平願浄土民間南寺因骨無常心願が国薬年願
Please everyone rise to greet us, Kisarana and Three Treasures. Please everyone join in God's show.
Buddha saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Fortunate is it to be born into human life, now we are living it. Rare is it to encounter the teachings of the Buddha, now we hear it. If we do not seek the truth of the Dharma in this life, in what life shall we find it? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in Buddha. May we all together absorb into ourselves the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken within us our highest aspiration. I take refuge in Dharma. May we all together be submerged in the depths of the Dharma and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in Sangha. May we all together become unity in true accord, in a life of harmony, in a spirit of universal friendship, free from our selfish behavior by taking responsibility. Even through its ages of myriad of coppers, hardly to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful teaching. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teachings. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Please everyone be seated. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And welcome back to the Frenso Buddhist Temple. Finally, the summer is over. But still, the weather-wise, summer is still on, right? But I hope everyone is trying to keep hydrate and keep staying safe and cool. Okay. Anyway, so today we are having full Ohigan. As I mentioned, Ohigan is the other shore of enlightenment. So today, in a special occasion, we have special guest speaker from Salt Lake Buddhist Church, whose name is Reverend Jerry Hirano. He's also serving director of the Center for the Buddhist Education. So he's a kind of a main drive for the education department for the Buddhist Churches of America. So he's really important person. But luckily, fortunately, we have here his dedication, his time for the Salt Lake, and especially he's serving multi-temple in Mountain District, and plus Center for Buddhist Education in Berkeley. So he's a really busy person, but luckily we are able to have him today for Ohigan. So he has the wife, Dr. Camara. She's a psychiatrist. So she's working, I think she's practicing in Salt Lake, right? So she's working in Salt Lake. And she has also 3 daughters like us. So he's really a busy papa, and also he's working full-time for the BCA ministry. So please welcome Reverend Jerry Hirano for our special guest speaker. I would applaud.
Would you please join me in Gasho? When you yourselves know these things are bad, these things are blamable, these things are censured by the wise, undertaken and observed, these things lead to harm and ill, abandon them. When you yourselves know these things are good, these things are not blamable, these things are praised by the wise, undertaken and observed, these things lead to benefit and happiness, enter on and abide in them. From the Kalama Sutra. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, everyone. First, I want to thank Reverend Nakata and Fresno Betsuin for inviting me here for this important Ohigan service. As I was saying yesterday, the first time I came here was in 1974 for a WYBL conference. And that conference actually had a very profound effect on me. And some of the other people yesterday said they were there, and they remember the theme. It was called DT SCLEM. It's the acronym for the Eightfold Path. And it actually is the way I teach the Eightfold Path still, with this acronym. But I've been here a number of other times. When Norimoto Sensei was at Rinban, I've been here. And the last time, I was trying to think, was when Miyaji Sensei was at Rinban here. So Nakata Sensei said that's almost 20 years ago. But it was very memorable. Reverend Yoshi, the young Kakyoshi, was also here then. And this time, Reverend Nakata took me to American restaurants to eat American food, or Western style food. And it was very good. But you know, when you go back in the old days, 20 years ago or so, usually ministers are always taken to Japanese restaurants. And Miyaji Sensei wanted to treat me to sushi. And so he took me to the sushi bar that he liked. And the thing that is so memorable is, it's the first time I did omakase, you know, where you just leave it up to the sushi chef to bring things out. And it wasn't a big place, but you usually don't question what they give you. You know, you just eat it, especially when you're a guest like I am. Say thank you and put it in your mouth. And I'm kind of a picky eater, you know, but I still did that. I still just gobbled whatever that shit. But then there was one thing towards the end that it was like these little black balls. It looked kind of like caviar, but not really. And I don't like fish eggs of any sort. But still, as a guest, I put it in my mouth, tried not to breathe, and swallowed it. All right. But I could still taste a strange taste in my mouth. And so I did ask the chef. I said, what is this? You know, this sushi bar, they didn't speak English, so I asked him if it was some type of fish egg. And he says, no. He goes, guess. I said, I have no idea what it is. And he said, Kanon. All right. And even if you know Japanese, it's like, I said, what did you say? I said, Kanon. I said, ka. I said, mosquito? And he said, yes. No man. I said, how do you get mosquito eyes? And he says one of the things he likes to do is to collect rare and unusual foods. So he says last time he was in Los Angeles, he went to an Asian market and there was canned mosquito eyes. he said that they go through bat droppings and they clean it and salt it and put it in a can. And so he asked me, do you like it? I said, to be honest, I said, hey, the taste was okay, but it's definitely not something I would eat again. But the funny part to me that sticks in my mind is Yoshi Sensei was married, just pretty recently married when I came. And I saw him, he's sitting here, and he was gonna eat that sushi after I had eaten it. And as soon as he heard Kanon, he stopped. He put it down and he goes, I'm gonna save this and give it to my wife. That's definitely the strangest thing I've ever eaten. And it's here in Fresno. So it's my very distinct memory of the last time I was here in Fresno. I was eating mosquito eye sushi here. And I just saw Miyagi Sensei about a month ago. I saw him last week too, but a month ago I asked him, and he says, I don't remember. I said, how could you not remember that? You know, but I guess other sushi bars have strange food too. That's why I only go to places where I know the chef. And if I do omakase, because I don't know what they'll give you. And he says that he doesn't think that sushi bar was even open anymore, the one that he liked to go to. But it's nice for me to be here in Fresno. You have it's the first time I've been in this Hondo and Culture Center. It's gorgeous. And hopefully I might have some congestion. I think I got a cold. My wife, I was explaining last night, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad being married to a doctor, because she's always saying, this is gonna happen, take this, take it. I don't even do my pill box. She just does it, and one of my friends said, you know, she could kill you anytime she wants to. Well, if it does, I guess there's nothing I can do about it. But anyway, she says, you're gonna get sick, because it's been a very busy month, maybe 2 months, because last weekend was the BCA 125th service, and the ministers came in Berkeley. The week before that was the Mountain States District Conference, which I'm a part of in Denver. And this weekend here, and then next weekend, I have the Northwest District Conference in Seattle. And if possible, I always like to drive. I drive as much as I can because since I'm so busy, I really like to read, but I usually don't have time to sit down and read the books that I like. So when I'm driving, I can usually get at least 1 or 2 books on one trip to California. So right now, the book that I enjoyed the most this year is a book that was actually recommended to me by one of my minister's assistants. People recommend these books to me, and I really appreciate that. And this one, I would highly recommend. It's called Fluke. Right? Fluke, Chance, Chaos, and Why Everything We Do Matters by Brian Klaus. I want to read a quote from there. I began to wonder whether the history of humanity is just an endless but futile struggle to impose order, certainty, and rationality onto a world defined by disorder, chance, and chaos. But I also began to flirt with an alluring thought that we could find new meaning in that chaos, learning to celebrate a messy, uncertain reality by accepting that we and everything around us are all just flukes, spit out by a universe that can't be tamed. It sounds kind of pessimistic, but I thought, this is the world I live in. You know, when I was younger, I would think that things are supposed to go a certain way. Like, if I was Nakata Sensei's daughter, Akika, you're third grade? Third grade? When I was around that age, I had this image that everything just, if you do this, this will happen. If you do that, your parents said, if you study, if you get good grades, you get the job that you want, you have a good lifestyle, you live happily ever after. Right? So at a young age, you think this is the way the world works. You know? And in Dharma school, we teach cause and effect. Right? I still remember the moment that Buddhism finally made sense. I'm like probably a lot of you. You know, like I was saying yesterday, I went to temple every Sunday, and I'd come home, because back then, I don't know about here in Fresno, but in Salt Lake, usually the parents didn't go with the kids to Dharma school. Right? My dad would drop me and my sister off in front of the temple, then I'd go up to the steps, and then he would drive around the corner. Sometimes I would go in, sometimes I would skip out into Japantown. There's stores, there are all kinds of things in the old Japantown in Salt Lake. But they weren't in the service with me. My mom would say, "What did you learn anything today?" I says, "No." I says, "I can't understand a thing Sensei says." But I've given an example. In Salt Lake, we didn't have very many, well, they spoke English, but it was a very difficult English to understand. And so like I had written an article about the threefold refuge. Probably until junior high or high school, I didn't realize that Sensei was saying faith, as in belief. I thought he was saying face. I put my face in Buddha. I put my face in Dharma. And actually, I didn't really question it. You know, I thought about a baby, right? When a baby learns to walk, it just falls face first into the parent, right? Without that, they're never going to learn to walk. But that's how it was back then. Most of the ministers didn't speak, like Nakata Sensei from Japan, all these newer young senseis coming from Japan, their English is excellent. But back then it was not so great. So I would always go, I don't understand anything Sensei says, I don't want to go. And my mom would say, just sit there, something will sink in. And I tell her, she must have been right. I'm a minister now. But the thing that made me say Buddhism is relevant for this life was, I was trying to think what year. It has to be like 67 or so, so I was 9 or 10, because I remember the car my dad drove. I really like cars. And it was a 1963 Buick Special Station wagon. And my dad never bought new cars. So that's why I'm kind of in the habit of not buying brand new cars. He says, it's a waste of money to buy a brand new car. Just try to get a car about 2 years old. And so it had to be around 67 or so when he had that Buick Special. I remember running out to the car, and I knew my dad would say, you know, what did you learn today? And I said, I can answer any question you ask me. I know the answer to everything in the world. So ask me a question. So I don't know what it was that he asked me, I can't remember. But my answer was cause and effect, karma. And he goes, what? Like cause and effect, karma. Ask me another one. And so he asked me something. I said, karma. And I said, I can't answer anything because that is the world we live in. Karma is the answer for anything that I have. I could say karma, 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 and it's the right answer. And no one could say, no, it's not. But when you learn this kind of teaching, you really start to think of life as very linear, right? You do this, you do that. But when you get to be my age, like, it's hard even to think about it now that I think I'm the second senior minister in BCA. The only one who's longer than me is Reverend Hirano. He was a minister 2 years before I was. So I've been minister now for 37 years. Right. But I'm pretty surprised that I made it this far. In 67 now, it's like, wow. My wife and I are exact same age, but I tell her, what? I made it to 67. I didn't think I was going to make it to 50. You know, I really, because many of my good friends died in their 40s and 50s. Guys I did things, some of my very good friends, like college friends. Most of my friends in college were Hispanics. It was Frank Cordova, Pete Suazo. They all died early. You know, and they said, back then we were really into politics and government. And this friend of mine was a senator when he died, but he said, you know, we're gonna all die early. He goes, if you're involved with a cause, he says, we're burning candle at both ends. He goes, don't expect to live too long. And sure enough, both Pete and Frank died in their late 40s, early 50s. And then my mentor, the one who got me to be a minister, Reverend Russell Hamada, he died, I think he was 42, and we were on a trip to Japan. Right. So I just assumed, I was a lot younger than most of these guys, but I thought, man, I'm not going to make it past 50 either. And so I told Carmela, I says, man, 67, that's so old. You know? And that's why it's good to have a wife at your services and things, because I always ask her, how was the Dharma talk? Did it make sense? And sometimes she would go, it was okay. I don't want to hear you say it's okay. I said, you're supposed to say, that was great, Jerry. But her wife is honest. So I asked her, do I look 67? She goes, yep, you do. I said, do you think we're that old yet? She goes, yep, we are. She's same age. I said, well then maybe I should retire. She goes, nope. We still have one girl in college. Right? You could think about it once she's finished. But being 67, you realize that life does not go from here to here to here. Right? But for Ohigan, it's kind of hard to talk about that because Ohigan, as Nakata Sensei said, means the other shore. So the entire service of Ohigan, it's a truly Japanese Buddhist holiday. It's not Chinese, it's not Indian. It was developed in Japan, right around the 14th century, 15th century, around Osaka, Tennoji, that area. And it was, as chairperson said, a time of balance. Right, so in Japan, on the equinox, it's a very moderate temperature. It's not too hot, not too cold. The day, the night are equal. So it was a time for contemplation, meditation. And so paramita also means wisdom, but that's why it's the other shore. The other shore is referring to this world, saha, the world of life and death, and the Pure Land, enlightenment. So how do we get there? You know, there's a very famous parable in Kyogyo Shinsho, which is Shinan Sherman's magnum opus. It's by Zendo, but it's called Nigabyakudo, the two rivers in the white path. And in this parable, it talks about a man wandering in a desert, and he's being pursued by bandits and wild animals. Then he comes to this point where there's only a small white path going across these rivers. A river of water, a river of fire. It's sometimes referred to as the point of three deaths. Because if he stays, he's dead. If he goes this way, he'll burn. This way, he'll drown. So he's wondering, what am I going to do? Then he hears this voice that says, go, trust. So he begins to walk on this white path. And while he's on that white path, he gets burnt, he gets wet a little bit, but he seems to be okay. But he still is a little bit skeptical if he's going to make it all the way. And then the bandits who are following him say, come back, come on back over here. We're not going to hurt you. We're worried about you on that dangerous white path. Come back. And then he hears a voice from the other shore. It says, just come as you are. You'll be okay. So he walks this white path to enlightenment. Right? That is the Jodo Shinshu version of Ohigan. We get to the other shore through the call of Amida, through Namo Amida-butsu. But the traditional idea is that you follow the 6 paramitas. Do any of you know the 6 paramitas? I wish they had something to remember the 6 paramitas by, like they had for the Eightfold Path. 6 paramitas, no matter how long, I know I usually could get 4 or so, or else we get some, so I have to write it down. So these 6 paramitas are dana, which means generosity or selfless giving, sila, morality, chanti, patience, virya, energy or endurance, dhyana, contemplation, meditation, and prajna, wisdom. So the idea in this method is that straight line. You do this, go on to this, and once you're able to do all 6, you'll be enlightened. But it's to do those to perfection. Let's start with the first, dana. Anyone here think you could do dana? Truly selfless giving. My prime example of how dana doesn't really work is when I returned to Salt Lake. The board in Salt Lake were very, very good. It's kind of strange because they're my parents' friends, you know. But they said, Jerry, do what you think is necessary to try to get this temple revived. And so they really let me do whatever I wanted. So one obon, and my aunt and my cousins were the odori instructors. And in Salt Lake, we practice in the gym. And they would put the people's name and then the amount of, called keikomimai, like a donation for practices. And they put it on the wall. And I said, that's so tacky. I said, what if we just put the name and not put the amount? And my Auntie Maxine, she goes, I don't think it's gonna work. The board says, just try it for 1 year. So we did. Just the name. What do you think happened? Donations fell by about 40%. The next year, I put the amount back on. It went back up. And the same thing, I used to always do the newsletter in my temple. I would get calls sometime. They said, Sensei, I think you made a mistake in how you wrote down my donation. I donated $100, not $10. Right? Okay, I'll put a correction in for next month. But think about it. I've never got one phone call from anybody that said, Sensei, you put one too many zeros behind my donation. But if I've made a number of mistakes putting 10 instead of 100, I probably did the opposite of putting 100 instead of 10. But nobody called me and said that was a mistake. So this is supposed to be dana with a name attached. Right? So to do true dana, selfless giving, is so hard. And that's just one of the 6 paramitas we have. Right? So I entrust this Jodo Shinshu view that I have found that my life is definitely not a straight line. It zigs and zags. Life doesn't work out exactly the way that you think it should. However, it still works out right for you. Things don't work exactly. Life isn't like that straight line across to the, I think of life more like a tornado swirling around, and I'm caught in this tornado. It's my life. Kind of like the Wizard of Oz. Pulled into this tornado, good, bad, it all happens. But that particular tornado of my life is just right for me. Right? It's not whether it's good or bad, it's just right for me. So I've often spoken to my wife about this. I said, you know, it's amazing that we met each other. My wife is from the Philippines. She came here for medical school. But I said, I'm married to an immigrant. You know, I said, when I talk about old rock and roll, or I talk about old soul music, like those of you who are somewhere near me, she didn't really know Earth, Wind, and Fire. I took her to an Earth, Wind, and Fire concert, and she just sat there. I said, everyone else is standing up, and you're just sitting there? She goes, I don't know them that much. You know, she knew the Beatles, things like that. But we don't have a lot of, before we got married, I gave her, because I'm a movie lover, I gave her a list of the 100 greatest movies ever made. I said, mark off the ones that you've seen. I kind of want to see where we're connected. And if we have anything in common. Out of that 100, she had 2. Maybe 3. Right? So We're very different, but our marriage works. And how we got together, I said, is anybody's guess. Probably karma. Cause and effect from past life has brought us together. So it works. So there's this poem that many of you probably know. It's called, it was translated by Taitetsu Uno. It's called Just Right. I want to share it with you. But it was originally written by a man by the name of Goromatsu Maekawa. He says, you as you are just right. Your face, body, name, surname, for you they are just right. Whether poor or rich, your parents, your children, your daughter-in-law, your grandchildren, they are all for you just right. Happiness, unhappiness, joy, and even sorrow, for you they are just right. The life that you have walked is neither good nor bad. For you it is just right. Whether you go to hell or to the Pure Land, wherever you go is just right. Nothing to boast about, nothing to feel bad about, nothing above, nothing below. Even the day and month that you die, even they are just right. Life in which you walk together with Amida, there's no way that it can't be just right. When you receive your life as just right, then a deep and profound faith begins to open up, for it is just right. So although we're caught up in this tornado, it's our tornado. It's just right for us. And after all these years, it's worked. And the only response I can have is, Namomidosu. And in that tornado, so for me, the white path is not like in the parable. It's not a voice in back, a voice in front. Within that tornado, I hear the call of Amida. I hear Namomidosu. Just trust it. Everything will be okay. So this is the message for me, for Ohigan. That life is good. Trust life to be there for you. The call of Amida is true and real life resonating within us. To trust it. To become a true and real human being. That's what Ohigan is about. So if you're going to contemplate anything, you don't have to contemplate the 6 paramitas. And even Ohigan, like I said, it's supposed to be moderate. Temperatures here aren't so moderate. It's Ohigan. Just like in Salt Lake, my March Ohigan, half the time it's snowing. So those things don't work, but it's a time to just look at your life, contemplate how lucky I am. The causes and conditions in my life to have come here, to be at this moment with all of you, is just right. And in that way, hopefully, it's not about doing this or doing that. It's about entrusting life itself. And then we become true and real human beings. And I used it yesterday, but it is my favorite Jodo Shinshu quote. And it's by a Reverend Gyodo Haguri from his book, The Awareness of Self. There's a Fresno connection to this. This book was translated by Reverend Will Masuda, who was a minister here in Fresno. And it was translated from when he was a student in Japan. So I want to close with this quote from The Awareness of Self. Join me, Gasho. Generally speaking, people are considered to be good and faithful followers if they lead a moral life, attend church services, and participate in welfare activities. In Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, however, while these practices are encouraged, they alone do not constitute the Buddhist way of life. What is critically important is that the teachings radically transform our way of thinking and living so that we become true individuals, strong in crisis, humble in success, tender in our feelings, and grateful at all times. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.